Russian propaganda has faltered. A spokesman for the DPR occupation forces, Alexander Kofman, openly admitted that Moscow is seizing territories where there is almost no population or infrastructure left. According to him, the occupied territories are turning into a demographic desert, the result of the most severe battles and monstrous losses suffered by Russia. In a burst of outspokenness, Kofman publicly complained that Russia was inheriting territories inhabited only by the elderly, the disabled, alcoholics, and drug addicts, with the land mined and the houses in ruins. He declared that after months of bloody offensives and tens of thousands of dead Russians, Moscow was seizing depopulated settlements. Who's left? The very elderly and the disabled, and the absolutely marginalized, the alcoholics and drug addicts. There will be no residents, and this is a geopolitical catastrophe we can do nothing about, Kofman said. According to him, this is the result of Ukraine evacuating people from war zones, saving civilians. The occupation authorities, meanwhile, are left with ruins and a demographic collapse. By doing so, he effectively acknowledged the failure of the main goal of the Russian aggression. The idea of Novorossiya is crumbling because there will simply be no one to populate the captured territories. Recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday that Russian forces had captured almost 5,000 square kilometers of land in Ukraine in 2025 and that Moscow retained complete strategic initiative on the battlefield. Russia's 2025 gains would amount to nearly 1% of Ukraine's land area, and the country controls nearly 20% in total. This year, we have liberated nearly 5,000 square kilometers of territory, 4,900 and 212 localities. Ukrainian forces, he said, are retreating throughout the line of combat contact, despite attempts at fierce resistance. Russia's defense ministry on Tuesday reported the capture of 2 more villages along the front, which Ukraine's top commander says now extends over 1,250 kilometers. Ukraine's military in August dismissed Russia's recent offensives as a failure, with Moscow's forces failing to capture a single major Ukrainian city this year. Ukrainian accounts say Kiev's troops have made gains in the Donetsk region, particularly around Dobropilya, a town near the key logistics hub of Pokrovsk. President Volodymyr Zelenski has also said Ukrainian forces have regained ground in the border Sumy region, where Russia has established a foothold. The pace of Russia's territorial advances in Ukraine slowed significantly in September, with Russian forces seizing 44% less land compared to August, the Ukrainian monitoring group Deep State reported. In total, Russia now occupies around 19.4% of Ukraine's territory. Ukraine's most significant losses in September occurred near the village of Novopavlivka in Donetsk Oblast. Deep State analysts described this sector as one of the most challenging sections of the front.
Protesters marched through the streets of the Mexican capital on Thursday, criticizing the government and denouncing what they said was insecurity, corruption, and what they see as official attempts to silence dissent. According to Associated Press, the demonstration unfolded peacefully in the city center as a separate civic-military parade was also held commemorating the 115th anniversary of the Mexican Revolution. Some protesters wore or waved black pirate flag symbols inspired by the Japanese manga series, One Piece, which the self-described Generation Z movement uses as its emblem and which has appeared in protests in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Protesters chanted slogans demanding justice for slain Uruapan Mayor Carlos Manzo, who was killed at the beginning of the month, and denounced Mexico's main political parties. Some protesters also chanted anti-Semitic chants. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has always said that whilst she is of Jewish ancestry, she is not religiously observant. Riot police blocked the march after a few blocks, preventing it from reaching the central square. Harold Prado, an actor, said protesters had taken to the streets because they were tired of the repression and of the violence affecting many in daily life. The march took place days after violent clashes in the capital's main square left more than 100 people injured, most of them police officers, and led to several arrests. Authorities have opened investigations into those incidents. The Gen Z movement said in a statement that investigations and what it called persecution would not stop its members from continuing to protest. The group says it is made up of apolitical young people inspired by global movements against inequality and political elites. Scheinbaum has said that those who promote violence or hatred are mistaken and force cannot replace justice. She previously accused opposition groups of driving the recent unrest and said violent factions sought confrontations with police.
Estamos aquí porque ya estamos cansados de la represión, de la violencia que se vive en México, de la falta de medicamentos, de la falta de justicia, de la extorsión, del cobro de piso, de que nos bloqueen el paso. Somos mexicanos y también tenemos derecho a manifestarnos y a opinar. El sábado pasado...
Chingadera, viva Morena, la misma chingadera. Es un derecho, mi voz no es un desorden, es un derecho. ¡Qué valientes bloquear manifestantes! ¡Qué valientes bloquear manifestantes!
Todo el tiempo hubo detenidos en la anterior marcha, digo que es injusto, quiero ver que en otras marchas haya detenidos, pero cuando es contra el gobierno, claro que hay detenidos, se exponen a estas personas, cuando a los delincuentes en todos los medios les ponen Jorge N, no revelan su información y ellos se me hace totalmente injusto, estamos cansados de homicidios, de feminicidios, de vivir en esta inseguridad. Nosotros somos
el mismo equipo, somos mexicanos, somos del mismo equipo, somos mexicanos.